Another argument that floats around here is that black people need to get over slavery. That's bullshit. First of all, motherfuckers ain't getting over 9/11. Motherfuckers ain't getting over goddamn the Pearl Harbor attack. 4th of July coming around. Motherfuckers ain't got over what the British did. When some bitches couldn't go to the mall and get their hair cut and get a mani-pedi and shit, and they were going to the state house with the AR-15s and shit, they were calling them goddamn policemen redcoats. That's a reference to the Revolutionary War. That's a reference to the British troops. So they must not got over that shit. Motherfuckers down here where I live ain't got over losing the Civil War. That's why they still flying the goddamn Confederate battle flag where I live. But you want to tell us to get over slavery? Shit, we ain't got over Jim Crow yet. Fuck you mean? My mama was born in the 40s. She was not born a free woman. My mama, my mother was not born free. I ain't telling you about no goddamn ancestors that I don't know shit about. My mother was not born free because she was born in Mississippi under Jim Crow. What the fuck are you talking about? Get over slavery. She was a second-class citizen. She went to underfunded, fucked up ass schools. And my mama has a master's degree. So don't play with it. Don't play with it. My mom was a great student. But the schools that she went to as a child were fucked up. Why? Because of racial discrimination. So don't tell us get over no motherfucking slavery. First of all, how could you get over such an evil thing like that anyway? But then to say that and disregard that Jim Crow went on for 100 years after that, to disregard that when Brown v. Board of Education was ruled on in 1954, that shit was not enforced immediately. In most of the South, that shit wasn't really even enforced until the 1970s. And shit, you can say it's still segregated to a great extent because these motherfuckers didn't put up these academies to run away from black people. Racism is expensive. Motherfuckers rather go pay tuition than to be around black people. You talk about Civil Rights Act of 1964. That questions still surrounding that. Whether or not that even, who did that help? For black people to be able to go wherever they wanted to go. That study after study shows that hurt black businesses. Because now the black dollar, whereas somebody was forced to spend the black dollar in the black neighborhood, now you're able to go to these other places where people might not still like you, but hell, by law, they gotta accept your dollar. Then you look at the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Shit, that's under attack. That's under attack. You got this goddamn voter ID law. This bullshit. Like motherfuckers trying to commit voter fraud. You can't even get motherfuckers to go vote. As I said previously, I think everybody needs to watch The Racial Wealth Gap Explained. It's on Netflix. It's on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, watch it. You'll see clearly how the ascension of black people has been stifled in this country by slavery and Jim Crow. The progress of black people has been stifled by systemic racial discrimination. So don't tell black people to get over slavery. That's bullshit. Don't try to tell black people that slavery was good, like my principal tried to tell us in my honors U.S. history class at St. Joseph Catholic School. Yeah, my mother was a Catholic school teacher for 27 years before she moved on back to the public school, since she taught overall 40 years. But since she did so many years in Catholic schools, I grew up in Catholic schools from preschool to 12th grade. In my 11th grade year in honors U.S. history, my principal called it revisionist history, and he tried to tell us slavery wasn't all that bad. That it was counterproductive to mistreat your slaves if you wanted them to work hard for you. So that's the kind of bullshit that happens. That's the kind of bullshit, false narratives, false history that has motherfuckers out here having a false sense of moral superiority. I remember distinctly in that class, we were talking about immigration, and the principal was my teacher for that class. So he told us, he wanted us to raise your hand if your parent immigrated to the country. You raise your hand if your grandparent immigrated to the country, great-grandparent, so forth and so on. By the end of this exercise, there's only a handful of folks that hadn't raised their hand yet. 4 people to be exact. And it was the 4 black people that were in the class. That's me, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and 2 other black girls. And so when we hadn't raised our hand, because our folks had been here so fucking long, I told the principal, I said, our people came here on another ship. And motherfuckers bust out laughing, but I was dead damn serious. Because we've been here this fucking long. And I know me personally, I can't speak on the other. I can speak on me and my wife. If you put our family's net worth compared to the rest of the motherfuckers in that classroom, we were dwarfed by them. But that little exercise showed that our family had been here long. That's the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Because we don't have lazy motherfuckers in our family. But systemic racial discrimination has stifled the ascension of our families economically in this country.